Hey everybody, Brandy here from Stamp Me Some Love. I've got a super cute card for you today. We are going to be using Maker Forte's Kaleidoscope Powders to create a very cool shimmer background. Also going to be using some of Maker Forte's exclusive stencils and stamp sets. This is going to be a super cute in a non-traditional color for Christmas. So let's get started. All right, let's get a close-up look here on the supplies that we're going to be using today. I've decided to use the Starry Night Slimline Stencil from Maker Forte, and I've got some distressed oxides here. I'm going to be using Barn Door and Worn lipstick. I'm going to be doing a blending technique. Now what I need to do is to spray some Pixie spray on the back side of the stencil. This is going to allow the stencil to lay down on the cardstock and not come up. I was concerned about putting some tape down because I didn't want a harsh line somewhere inside the stencil, so I decided to go with this route. I'm using scrapbook.com's domed foam blending ink blending brush. I recently started using these for my ink blending, and I really do like it. The domed tip prevents getting those circle lines in your blending that some of the other blending brushes cause. And so between this blending brush that I'm using and then the Waffle Flower Media Mat, it really makes blending a whole lot easier. So I decided to do kind of an ombre effect on this card, and I'm blending the worn lipstick on the top of the card or the bottom of the card. I haven't quite decided which orientation I'm going to be placing the card, but just blending that in along one side of the card, and then I'll go and turn the card around and come from the other direction with that barn door color, and then sort of going back and forth between the two colors to blend them seamlessly somewhere in the middle of the card. So I didn't know at the time that I was creating this card that I was planning to use some of the Kaleidoscope powders. Had I known that, I probably would not have removed the stencil like I did just now. I later decided I wanted to put some kaleidoscope powder, but I only wanted it to show up on the dark parts where the ink had laid down. And so when I went to go put the stencil back on, it didn't stick quite as well as I wanted to, and so I went ahead and put some more of the Pixie spray on the back of the stencil and then laid the stencil back down on the card so I could then go ahead and put the kaleidoscope powders in specific areas of the card. Now, in order to get the kaleidoscope powder to actually adhere to the card, I have to put some sort of sticky surface down. And that's part of the reason why I decided to put the stencil back on the card, because I wanted to place the Color Hive clear ink only on those exposed areas, and that's what I did there. And so next we're going to be using the kaleidoscope powder. This one is called Mercury, and I'm using the little blender brush that Maker Forte sells, and I'm just dipping the brush into the little container there, picking up some of the powder, and then basically smearing it on to the card. I still have that stencil on there, so the the shimmery powder is not going to get underneath the stencil where the white part is on the card. So I'm just sort of filling up the page and brushing on the Kaleidoscope powder. You don't need a lot. A little goes a long way because this powder is very, very fine. So just take your brush and dip it in the little container there and then spread it out and go to town. This is probably one of my favorite parts of this whole card, was creating this iridescent background. Now once the powder has been laid down, I used Maker Forte's little brush tool there just to flick off some of the excess. And I noticed that there was some some spaces that were missing powder, so I went ahead and reapplied that and then used that big brush to kind of remove some of the excess. Now with the powder having been applied, I just gently pull back that stencil and it's going to reveal a very beautiful shiny shimmer background, as you can see here as I move it along the light. So next what I'm going to do is just trim that down, and I decided that I wanted to trim it all the way to the edge and not give it a border effect. And this means that I'm going to be custom making the Slimline card. I'm not going to be following the quote-unquote normal size. I've decided that I'm going to trim this down and then I'm going to measure it to see how big the actual card base needs to be. And when I measured it, it was 7 1/8 by 3 3/8, which means I needed to have a card base that measured in 7 1/8 and 6 3/4. So I cut that out with some Nina Solar White heavy duty cardstock. I think it was the 110 pound, and used that as the card base and scored it down the middle. Now one thing I forgot to do before I started handling the card was to set the powders, and you need to spray some sort of fixative to the card panel. And Alexandra from Maker Forte, she recommends just using some cheap old hairspray. So I went to the grocery store and looked through the travel section and pulled out that hairspray, and that's what I used. Now what I'm going to do is heat emboss the sentiment, and I decided to use the sentiment Peace and Joy from the stamp set Poinsettia. And it also has a sentiment that says, "May your holiday season be filled with," in smaller letters. So I decided to heat emboss on black cardstock with white embossing powder the words Peace and Joy, and then I just went back and regular stamped the "May your holiday season be filled with" and used some Memento black ink for that. Once the sentiments were stamped, now it's time to adhere them to the card, and I decided that I wanted to give it some dimensions, so I'm using Scrapbook.com's double-sided foam adhesive squares. They've got these really tiny squares that I think are just a little bit short of 1/4 of an inch, which works great for this particular sentiment here because it does measure 1/4 of an inch. So I just gently pull back a row of squares there with my little poker tool from Maker Forte and just lay that down. And then I'm going to use the Scrapbook.com double-sided foam adhesive rounds, which are a little bit bigger for the word joy and peace. The next thing I wanted to do was to kind of give it some bling. It does have a shimmery background, but I also wanted to give it a little bit of sparkle. So I've decided to use the Pinkfresh Studios Essential Jewel Kit here, and I'm using the purple rhinestones. And there are little tiny stars in the stencil that I was using, so I decided that I was going to put a purple rhinestone on top of every one of those little stars, and I think it just sort of gave the card a little bit more of a finished look. And well, what can I say? I like bling, so I think it looked really pretty the way the card kind of shimmered and then it kind of sparkled with the rhinestones. So I was pleased with the card. There you have it. The card is complete, and I just love the way it shimmers and shines in the light, depending on the way you move it. This is the Mercury Kaleidoscope Powder from Maker Forte, and it really did create a beautiful background to my card. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I enjoyed creating the card. Be sure to check out my Stamp Me Some Love Academy, and that is at stampmesomeloveacademy.teachable.com, where you'll find more in-depth tutorials on how to create your best work. The next virtual live class we will have will be on January 30th, and I will be posting details for that live class very soon. If you are interested in getting a discount code, please do DM me on Facebook at facebook.com/stampmesomelove. And be sure to tell me that you are interested in the promo code for the next virtual live class on January 30th. Now do me a big favor, if you thought this tutorial was helpful, give it a big thumbs up, comment down below what was your favorite part of the video, or comment down below what you would like to see in the next video. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Life happens, y'all. Take care. I comment, stamp me some love, and I'll see you in the next video.